Luffy's powers didn't just grow, they transformed. From rubber punches to reality-bending attacks, each gear has a story. Today, we're breaking down every gear from base form to Gear 5, including hidden details you might have missed. Starting with his base form, before the flashy transformations and power-ups, everything begins with Luffy's natural state. No haki or gears, just the raw strength and elasticity granted by his devil fruit. The gum fruit didn't just make his body stretch like rubber, it rewrote the rules of how he could fight, move, and survive. His limbs can twist, bend, and rebound in ways that give him both offensive reach and defensive resilience. Even his internal organs share these rubber-like traits, enabling him to perform physical feats that defy human limits, like tanking devastating blunt force impacts that would tear a normal person apart, and even surviving high-velocity collisions without a single broken bone or scratch. One of the most defining traits of this rubber body is its complete immunity to electricity. When Luffy faced off against Enel, a man with control over lightning itself, it wasn't advanced technique or strategy that won, it was the fact that rubber doesn't conduct electricity. Luffy beat Enel with nothing but base level instincts and a body that couldn't be shocked. That moment perfectly illustrates the deceptive power of his regular form, and while he doesn't look like a powerhouse on the surface, Luffy's physical strength has gone toe-to-toe with many deadly opponents. In Alabasta, Luffy effortlessly lands a powerful punch that sends Crocodile crashing through a solid wall, shattering it. Later, he even stops a deadly stomp from Doflamingo, a far larger and more muscular opponent, using just one leg. It's this quiet, consistent strength that forms the foundation of all his explosive techniques. But Luffy isn't just strong, he's innovative. His fighting style constantly evolves in the middle of battle. Whether it's slingshotting himself through the air with his arms or grabbing distant surfaces to pull off last-second evasions, he's turned rubber-based movement into an unpredictable art form. His base form may not be as flashy as his later gears, but it's the foundation of his fighting style, a mix of creativity and relentless willpower that set the stage for everything that followed. This leads us to Gear 2. After suffering devastating losses against both Aokiji and Rob Lucci, Luffy came to a harsh realization that his base form alone wasn't enough to protect his crew or face the growing dangers of the Grand Line and beyond. To counteract this, he developed Gear 2, a technique first shown during his fight against Bluno at Enies Lobby. To activate it, Luffy uses his rubber build to dramatically accelerate the flow of blood through his body or specific limbs, flooding them with oxygen. In doing so, he boosts his speed and power to extreme levels, unlocking a new set of enhanced techniques. The boost was so drastic that even a seasoned CP9 assassin like Bluno couldn't keep up as Luffy broke through his defenses, overwhelmed him in seconds, and humbled one of the world government's top agents. Due to this increased strength and speed, he's been able to heavily damage powerful opponents such as Magellan and Blackbeard and Impel Down on 2 separate occasions. Activating this technique causes Luffy's metabolism to surge dramatically, generating heat that rapidly evaporates his sweat and creates a visible steam-like effect around his body. In the anime, this process also causes his skin to shine with a subtle pink tint and a glossy finish, reflecting the rush of increased blood flow beneath the surface. Even though Gear 2 grants immense power and speed, it comes with serious risks. Before the time skip, Luffy could only maintain this form briefly because the accelerated blood flow rapidly drained his energy. This resulted in a decline in both strength and speed, along with a significant decline of his lifespan, concerns that Rob Lucci himself pointed out. Exceeding this limit left Luffy unable to move, a danger that became painfully clear following his intense fight with Lucci, where pushing too far nearly cost him his life. Following the time skip, Luffy's mastery over Gear 2 shows clear growth. Instead of relying on his old rigid stance, he can now quickly kickstart the technique by pumping blood through any limb he chooses. This newfound control lets him use Gear 2 in quick, precise bursts, firing off specific powerful moves without staying in the form longer than necessary. It's clear he's learned to respect his body's limits, using these brief surges to avoid the heavy toll Gear 2 once took on him, a lesson that was painfully earned and highlighted many times earlier in his journey. While Gear 2 took Luffy's speed to the next level, he needed something just as overwhelming in terms of raw power, and that's where Gear 3 comes in. It was first teased at the end of his fight with Bluno, but it wasn't fully revealed until his battle with Rob Lucci. By blowing air into his thumb, Luffy inflates his body to giant-like proportions. He channels the air through his torso, which acts as a pathway, enabling him to expand any limb he chooses, whether it's a leg or a fist. The result is a massive increase in size and striking power, trading speed for sheer destructive force. While Gear 3 gives Luffy a huge boost in strength, it comes at the cost of speed. His inflated limbs become so large that they're harder to move, making it tough to keep up with fast, agile opponents. This was clear when Rob Lucci in his full leopard form sank his teeth into Luffy after he missed an attack during their battle at Enies Lobby. Before the time skip, Gear 3 came with a weird downside, since after using it, Luffy would shrink into a tiny chibi-like version of himself. In this form, he could barely stretch and lost most of his strength. This was evident when he punched Rob Lucci but couldn't do any real damage. With his power gone and movement limited, the best thing Luffy can do is run and hide until he turns back to normal, leaving him wide open for enemies to take advantage. Following the time skip, Luffy got rid of one of Gear 3's biggest issues, and that's the shrinking that used to happen after using it. We see this clearly when he lands a massive flaming punch on Kaido using advanced armament haki. Not only was it powerful enough to hurt Kaido, but this time Luffy didn't shrink afterward. He also gained far better control over how he uses Gear 3. Before, inflating his whole arm made his attack strong, but slow. Now, he directs the air just behind his fist. This keeps the rest of his arm normal so he can stretch and move faster. Adding armament haki makes his punches faster, sharper, and much more powerful, which is impressive given their size. But even that isn't as rare or surprising as what's coming next, which I believe doesn't get talked about enough. Before the time skip, one of Luffy's most powerful moves was combining Gear 2 and Gear 3 simultaneously. While staying in Gear 2 for speed, he would inflate his body using Gear 3 by directing air into his torso. This created a high-speed cannonball-like attack that packed the speed of Gear 2 with the raw power of Gear 3. However, it was a risky technique as Luffy suffered intense strain and heat from Gear 2, while the bulkiness of Gear 3 made movement difficult. Despite these drawbacks, this combo was strong enough to defeat Gecko Moria in its final form, marking its first major appearance. What's even more rare is that Luffy used this powerful combination again much later during the end of Dressrosa in his fight against Fujitora. Since we're already on the topic of Dressrosa, let's get into Gear 4. What makes this form stand out is how it blends the speed of Gear 2, the power of Gear 3, and adds armament haki into the mix. Luffy first revealed this during his battle with Doflamingo, something he came up with during his training with Rayleigh on Ruskaina, an island within the Calm Belt. But Luffy doesn't stop there. Gear 4 actually has two more forms, but we'll get to those soon. First up is the one that started it all, which is Bounce Man. Luffy kicks off this transformation by coating his arm in armament haki and sinking his teeth into it. Instead of inflating his bones like he does with Gear 3, Luffy forces air straight into his muscles, causing his body to swell with tightly packed pressure. The result is a bulky spring-loaded form charged with energy that he can't even stay grounded since he's constantly bouncing in place. Most of the air is concentrated in his upper body, giving him a massive tank-like build. His arms, chest, and legs are layered in hardened haki, while a steady stream of steam pours from his body, echoing the fiery collars often seen on awakened Zoan-type users. Thanks to his rubbery nature and the spring-loaded pressure within his muscles, Gear 4 doesn't just boost Luffy's offensive power, it turns him into a bouncing powerhouse. His punches hit with the impact of a cannon, like the time he used Python to deliver a devastating blow to Doflamingo, a moment that often gets overlooked. On top of that, his defenses far surpass anything he can manage with Gear 2 or Gear 3 alone. Luffy's Gear 4 isn't just brute force, it's a refined technique that clearly builds on principles from the 6 powers. It grants him incredible speed, letting him zip through the air and even launch himself off it, almost like an enhanced version of moonwalking, amplified by his elastic body. His movements are rapid and unpredictable, and his rubbery frame acts like a springboard, not just for mobility, but for bouncing attacks right back at enemies. But even with all that power and defense, Gear 4 has its limits. While it gives him solid resistance to slashes, blades coated in powerful armament haki like those wielded by Charlotte Cracker can still cut through his defenses. And when it comes to raw impact, if an enemy's haki and physical strength are strong enough, they can break through the protection his inflated body offers, similar to what Kaido did at the peak of their brutal showdown. Still, when it comes to durability and defense, Luffy takes things even further, with the next variation being a form that pushes Gear 4's defensive capabilities to the extreme. During his fight with Charlotte Cracker, Luffy showed off a rare form of Gear 4 called Tankman, which made its appearance on Whole Cake Island. However, this wasn't a form he planned to use, since it happened because he ate so many of Cracker's biscuit soldiers that his body became completely stuffed. In this this form, most of the air goes into his huge round torso while his arms puff up a bit. Parts of his body, like his forearms and lower stomach, get coated in haki to boost his defense. Even though it looks a bit comical, this form is seriously tough. Luffy was able to take and deflect a piercing attack from Cracker, a big change from earlier in the fight when he had actually managed to cut into Luffy's arm even in Bounce Man form. This time, when Cracker tried to stab him again, Luffy's massive body absorbed the blow, trapping Cracker inside. Luffy then launched him with a powerful counter, smashing through the last of the Biscuit soldiers and ending the fight with a clear victory. And because Gear 4 burns through energy so fast, Luffy lost the weight and returned to normal not long after the fight. The stuffed version of Tankman isn't a regular transformation since it's more of a one-time form that came from the unique situation of eating too much in the middle of a fight. Now we move on to another of Luffy's Gear 4 forms, and that's Snakeman. Luffy first revealed this during his intense fight with Katakuri. Snakeman is a unique version of Luffy's Gear 4 that looks and works differently from his other forms. Unlike Bounce Man or Tankman, Luffy's body doesn't grow much in size. Only his arms, legs, and upper chest get a bit bigger, as everything else stays close to normal. The haki coating also doesn't fully cover his upper body or shoulders. His hair becomes longer, sticks up, and takes on a fiery smoke-like appearance. But what really sets Snakeman apart is its speed. Luffy becomes much faster and can use a technique called Python to curve and redirect his punches mid-air. While Bounce Man also uses Python, Snakeman takes it further. His attacks get faster and stronger the longer they travel, making it harder for dodging enemies to escape. This lets Luffy target almost any part of an opponent's body from a distance, even if they try to avoid him. This form is made to fight fast, slippery opponents and relies heavily on Luffy's advanced observation haki to guide his punches like heat-seeking missiles. Despite all that, Snakeman isn't without its weaknesses. Since his body isn't inflated like Bounce Man or Tankman, he doesn't have the same level of defense. When Katakuri slammed him into walls, Luffy took the hits directly instead of bouncing off like he normally would. He also can't shrug off powerful blunt force attacks as easily in this form. Even with its downsides, Luffy has gradually gained much better control over Gear 4 through intense training and later on by awakening his Devil Fruit, a topic we'll dive into shortly. After training in Udon, Luffy gained better control over Gear 4, similar to how he refined Gear 3. Luffy also learned to smoothly switch between his two main Gear 4 forms, Bounce Man and Snakeman. This is evident during his battle with Kaido and Wano as he transitions between forms to match Kaido shifting between his beast form and dragon forms. With the advanced haki techniques he learned during his fights with both Katakuri and Kaido, Luffy also created new and stronger variations of his existing attacks. Later on, during his fight with S-Bear and S-Hawk on Egghead Island, Luffy is seen manually deactivating Gear 4 while still using haki, showing an even deeper level of control. By the time of the Elbaf arc, he demonstrates an even more refined use of Gear 4, channeling it only into specific limbs. Instead of entering a full form like Bounce Man, Luffy enlarges parts of his body, enabling him to stretch and launch his attacks while using the compressed power of Gear 4. This selective use is similar in principle to how Gear 3 works, but with more precision and flexibility. But even that wasn't Luffy's peak. After pushing every gear to its limit, he awakened a power not just stronger, but entirely different. Now we're at Luffy's Gear 5, a game-changing transformation that first showed up in the Wano arc after he took a brutal beating from Kaido at Onigashima. This is when Luffy's true power came out. His Devil Fruit wasn't just a gum fruit like everyone thought, but actually the human fruit Mado Nika. This mythical Zoan fruit doesn't just make him stronger or faster, it lets him fight with complete freedom. He can use his imagination to shape how he fights, which is why he's called the Warrior of Liberation, a symbol of joy and freedom. Gear 5 is wild and unpredictable, so much so that it's been called the most ridiculous ability in the world. When Luffy activates it, his heartbeat changes and creates a unique rhythm called the Drums of Liberation, so powerful that Zunisha, the ancient elephant, can feel it. His appearance changes too, as his hair turns white and flame-like. He switches to white shorts and sandals, and white cloudy wisps float around him. His eyes glow and his eyebrows swirl in a way that fits the cartoonish, playful vibe of this form. In Gear 5, Luffy is all about freedom and creativity, as he's not limited to normal fighting moves. His body can stretch, twist, and reshape in crazy ways. His punches can curve, he can bounce and squash like a cartoon character, and he does all sorts of wild physics-defying moves. powers. Thanks to this form, he went toe-to-toe with Kaido and even beat Rob Lucci, who was also in a powerful awakened form. He can take huge hits like Kaido's blast breath, get burned in cartoonish ways, and still bounce right back. Plus, his recovery is faster than ever, even healing mid-fight sometimes. Luffy's rubber body becomes insanely flexible, making all his prior forms look like light work. His limbs stretch farther, and he can inflate parts of himself like in Gear 3 and 4, but now he doesn't even need to blow air into himself. For example, he once grew his arm huge enough to grab Kaido in dragon form and slam him around like a ragdoll. He can even grow to giant size if he wants. Gear 5 doesn't just change Luffy, it changes the world around him too. He can turn the ground, walls, and even the air into rubber. This lets him bounce off attacks, launch across the battlefield, or stretch the terrain to defend himself. He's even stretched elements like lightning, clouds, and fire in ways no one expected. Sometimes he adds silly touches like pulling goggles from his hair. These props don't make him stronger, but they show how much fun and freedom this form gives him. But even with all its power, Gear 5 has limits. It uses a massive amount of energy, so if Luffy stays in it too long, he gets completely drained and can even look decades older from the strain. As a result, he needs time to recover, which can put him in unfavorable positions to receive deadly attacks, though a big meal helps him bounce back faster, true to his usual appetite. And similar to most of Luffy's other gears, he's still vulnerable to cuts and slashes. Gear 5 isn't just another power-up, it's an entirely new Luffy. It's a symbol of freedom, joy, and creativity. And while it's already incredible, he's just getting started. Just like his earlier gears, Luffy will continue refining and evolving this form, not just to overcome the even stronger enemies ahead, but to bring him one step closer to becoming the Pirate King. If you enjoyed this look at Luffy's gears, hit subscribe and the bell button for more One Piece videos like story summaries, character deep dives, devil fruit explanations, and more. Leave a comment with your favorite gear and how you think Luffy's powers will evolve and change over the course of the series. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and I'll see you in the next video.